Hi everyone, I'm back with another video. This one is about the subject of crazy 1980s teachers. Because I had some that were absolutely barking mad. Wouldn't believe it. Honestly, this generation, even my children now, I mean, they're in the 30s, but when they were younger, I told them the things that happened to me when I was at school and they would not believe me. They honestly thought I was making up stories. It's that wild. And I know a lot of you in your 50s and midlife will have similar stories to tell. And, I'd love to hear what has happened to you when you were at school, because there's some wild stories. If the things that happened then happen now, it would make front page news. It'd be all over the media. Teacher beats child, teacher acts in bizarre manner in front of class. But then it was the norm. We were beaten with canes, we were beaten with rulers. One of our teachers had a huge plimsoll. I'm sure it must have belonged to some sort of mutant. I mean, it must have been like a size blooming 14 or something. He used to beat us with that. We used to get chalk thrown at us. We used to get the balled rubber thrown at us. Bonkers, honestly. Crazy, crazy stuff. Unbelievable. Sometimes I have to pinch myself to think, did that all actually really happen? Was I living in some sort of parallel universe then? Because it's just so crazy and unbelievable. But yeah, those things really happened. I'll just kick off with a few stories. There was one guy that couldn't say his R's, a bit like Jonathan Ross, What a name, Jonathan Ross. But he can't say the R for the, he's a great guy. I love Jonathan Ross, but, he must have a lot of trouble trying to say his name in front of people. Must have got a lot of stick for that growing up in school when he was younger. People that can't say the R's. And this deputy headmaster couldn't say his R's. And he was so aggressive. He used to have us all lined up and he'd be telling us all off. A bit like a sergeant, really. Sort of inspecting the troops. He'd have us all lined up. We'd be marching up and down in front of us. And then obviously someone would start to laugh. It'd be like, and then you'd start to laugh yourself. Obviously it's so infectious, laughter. And then he would say, "You think it's funny? You think it's funny, do you? I'll bounce you round this room like a rubber ball." And of course, we'd all just burst out laughing. And then he would have his cane and he used to say, "You think it's funny? Whack, whack, whack." And he'd be hitting us on our legs and our knees. I can remember one guy, don't know what he'd done. I can never remember the things we'd done, really. I can just remember the beatings that we had. One guy, he was curled up in a ball in the corner of the room, and the teacher was whacking him on his back and on the back of his legs and on his bottom. And he was yelping like a wounded dog. It was really bad thinking back, it really was horrendous what they used to do. And there was another teacher that we used to call the mighty massager. Not so much violent behaviour, but very intrusive behaviour, to say the least. You'd put your hand up in class and he'd come over and he'd say, "Yes, what is it?" And he'd come behind you and he'd start to massage your shoulders. And he was doing it to everybody. I don't know what his issue was, why he thought it was appropriate to do. I'll never know. And after a while, we dubbed him the mighty massager, and people used to put their hands up just for the fun of it, really, just to see what kind of reaction they would get. And they'd go, oh yeah, sir, just a bit down, just a bit further down, sir, yeah, just a bit further down. And he'd oblige. Weird behaviour. We had another teacher. He looked like one of the dwarfs out of The Hobbit. Like the ones with the big beards, the ones that swing the axes. He looked like that. He had a big beard. He was really small, but very chunky. He really would have looked in place in The Lord of the Rings, definitely. But he would be at the front of the class teaching, and then if someone was at the back talking like children do, then he would look, and these people and the whole class would look, and and these two people talking at the back were oblivious as to what was going on because they were locked in conversation. But we were all mesmerised, looking at the teacher, looking at them, looking at the teacher, knowing what he was about to do. And what he would do is he would jump up on his desk, and then he would use the students' desks as stepping stones to jump from desk to desk, hopping along until he was right at the back in front of the people that were talking. And then he would be leaning into them and he'd be saying, "Come on, what have you got to talk about? Share it with the class." It was terrifying, it really was, but very freakish to see. We had another teacher, PE teacher, very aggressive, very terrifying. And his deputy PE teacher was equally as terrifying as well. He was more brooding though, the deputy one that would stand there. And the main PE teacher would be the one that would rant and rave. And I can remember something had happened. Somebody had done something. We were all changed and we were about to go into the gymnasium for our session. Something happened. I don't know what it was. Somebody had stolen something. Somebody had done something. And he was marching up and down saying, "Come on, who did it? Who did it? I need an answer now." And nobody was owning up to whatever this thing was. So he was freaking out, really angry, terrifying, red-faced. The other guys, brooding. Deputy one was just sort of intimidating, looking at us like this, you know. And nobody was owning up to whatever it was. But then, of course, the laughter started. People are looking at each other going, of course, it's just so infectious. I mean, it makes me laugh even now thinking about it. And gosh, I can remember one lad getting picked up, literally got picked up by the PE teacher, and he just got thrown against one of these metal coat hangers, like you know those ones with the balls on. You don't see them so much now, but people from my era will remember them. And he picked up this lad and he just bounced him into it, and you heard his back crunch. It was just horrific. And also the same teacher, when he was in a better mood, he used to, when people were going into the shower, he'd whack people on their backsides, crack, laughing about it, and every one of them had a red hand mark on the butt cheeks. Imagine that happening now. Gosh, I mean, it's just wild. I just don't know how. I almost think that it was, did I really live through that? Did that really actually happen? It's just crazy. And the final example I've got of a crazy 1980s teacher is the maths teacher in our school at the time. He was so violent. I mean, gosh. And I think I've heard a lot of people's maths teachers were violent. What is it about maths teachers? But this guy used to throw the board rubber at us if we misbehaved, and chalk and anything he could get his hands on. People used to get hit in the head and the eye. I mean, gosh, imagine that happening today. It would be front page news, wouldn't it? Horrific. I mean, a board rubber to the head. I mean, a wooden board rubber. I mean, come on. I mean, that's assault, isn't it? By anyone's definition, you'd end up in prison for that these days. How did they get away with it? I have no idea, guys, honest. It's absolutely insane. And no wonder my children, when they were younger, I mean, they're older now, but I told them these stories. They were just mortified and couldn't believe me. I had to really convince them. But as well as being very violent, he also used to put people on the spot. And I was completely rubbish at maths, so I had to depend upon a school friend who I would always sit next to in maths to feed me the answers, you know, because the maths teacher would put the equation up on the blackboard, and then it would be all right for a while. I would sort of like follow along to some degree, but then eventually I would just get lost, and then the weeks would go on and I'd be thinking I've got no idea at all what is going on. So I was dependent upon my school friend to give me the answers, and he would whisper me them. But then eventually he thought it was a good idea to start giving me the wrong answers, just being a complete git. And he gave me the wrong answers, and then the maths teacher would say, "What? I'm intrigued. Walk me through it. How did you get that? And how did you arrive at that conclusion? Share it with the class. We'd love to know." I'd be like, "I don't know, sir. You don't know, sir. Have you been listening?" And oh, it was just a nightmare, horrendous. I mean, I was so glad to get out of school. My final day of school just couldn't come quick enough. Honestly, it was just so crazy. Really was crazy. 1980s teachers, guys, absolutely horrendous. If you got any stories yourself, I'd love to hear about them. Drop them in the comments. See you now.